You can see the Jarmo Kekalainen a quote up on the YouTube version. I'll read it off real quick. Josh is a player that impacts the team both on and off the ice. He works hard, is competitive and skilled, and his game is going to continue to develop. We believe he will be a core piece of this team moving forward, and I'm excited to have him as a Buffalo Sabre long term. So, Jarmo Kekalainen has only been the general manager for a short time. I know he's been here, as a senior advisor for this season, but just makes a great impression to not only players, fans, but the management team as well. So it looks like it's well deserved and well received by everybody for a guy like Josh Doan.
Yeah, and it's it's the kind of thing where I think it's the first contract in a while where I think a lot of fans just didn't even blink at the money. They're just like, "Yep, cool, easy." Like, it seems like a bargain, done. Like, you don't even think about it. You don't worry about it, the immediacy of that getting signed. Obviously there are some folks that are concerned about some other players that we're probably going to be talking about here shortly getting re-signed. But I mean, for what the cost is and the length of the contract, I think everybody is extremely excited.
Going into that, Joe, we had a report earlier this week from Elliot Friedman that he stated when Kevin Adams was there as the general manager in Buffalo, one of the things he talked about was if we gave Alex Tuch what he wants, how are we going to be able to get Josh Doan and Zach Benson done? I do think that question is still very much part of Buffalo's discussion. That was from a show that he did back on January 22nd. So, when you talk about the Doan extension, we know Alex Tuch's contract is still up in the air right now, unrestricted free agent, and Zach Benson obviously is going to, want to get re-signed as well. So does this at all concern you? Do you think that this Doan contract, not being one that's going to break the bank for Buffalo, but again, when you start to creep up to the salary cap, you start to wonder. But what are your general thoughts here on how this might affect the Tucker, the Tuch contract, and then the Benson extension as well?
Well, I think this is it's an interesting one because I think a lot of folks are worried about this, and I think it's probably pretty normal to be worried. And you want to try to get everything done, and it's I get it. I totally get it. It's something where you want everything to just get squared away and be all right, and everything will come out the way you want it to come out. And I think when you see what happens with contract negotiations that are very much not in the media, like you're seeing with Tuch, like none of this stuff is being negotiated through reporters or insiders or any of that stuff. Like Alex stays out of the loop. He lets the Bartletts, his agents, the Bartletts handle everything. The Bartletts do not tell us anything about what's going on. Jarmo was very coy about, answering, everything about Alex, the other day in Montreal about it. So, it's something where he's like, hey, maybe we'll see something. This will play things forward for the future. I don't know. Maybe this is, maybe this will work out. To me, people want to get, it's kind of interesting how this works out, but Sabres fans have gotten to the point where they want this essentially to work out as a let's run it back with this group already next year kind of setup, which is really interesting. But I see that you look, the cap's going up to, what is it next year, 104 million, and the Sabres already have 90 million committed the next season, which is kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy to see that number and be like, wow, okay, they really are spending money. But that kind of about, it's about 14 million in cap space. So you're thinking, all right, well, what do you get? What's a Benson extension look like? How does that work out? How do you work things out with, with some of the other UFA guys that maybe you want to retain? The juggling that goes on with all this stuff. Peyton Krebs, he's an RFA. How do you get that taken care of? There's so much time. There's so much time to worry about, any RFA guys or it's even some of the UFA guys you want to retain, the Malensteins, the, Josh Duns, the, maybe, Bryson's, Metza, the guys like that, where you're like, okay, let's figure out a way to do it. Getting Tuch done is difficult, and it's difficult for a bunch of reasons because, it's his age. He's 30. Do you want to give him 7 years? Probably not. Does Alex want 7 years? Probably. Almost certainly. Like, pay me till the end, till I'm close to wrap up my career there. Great. But it's tough because if you shorten the years, the money goes up. That's That's the hard part. And if if you're expecting Alex to take a hometown discount, that ain't happening, because the contract that is ending right now is the extension he got while he was in Vegas. And that deal was one where he looked at it, spoke to him last year about, what it was like to negotiate that. And that was one where Vegas was like, hey, we got a deal. We got an offer for you. What do you think? And he's like, wow, great. Let's do it. Youth, you get a big offer tossed your way and you're like, wow, this looks great. Let's get it done. And, you get a couple of years into it, then suddenly you're a 30, 35 goal scorer. And you're like, oh no, I'm massively underpaid now. Where did I go wrong? And it's like, well, you didn't go wrong. It's just, maybe it was the length of that extension that wasn't exactly the right idea at the time. So, now he's at a point where he can demand big money. Like, he can demand, 10, 11, $12 million a year if he wants to. Like, you can do that and know that the cap's going up, and like there's a little bit more freedom to do that. And, Buffalo's in a spot now where it's like, hey, well, we want to keep you, but that's a tough amount to judiciate there. So, it's a hard spot, especially because, if you end up giving Alex what he wants, then you have to kind of play some hardball with Benson and Krebs and those guys. And maybe you got to say goodbye to a Malenstein or Josh Doan or somebody like that, other grit glue guys that you've got in the lineup that take care of little things. And I know fans will talk a big game and be like, fine, let Krebs go. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, listen, you can do that, but then suddenly you've got zero depth and you don't have the kind of balance in your lineup that you've got right now. So it's a tough spot to be in. But I think with Jarmo running the show, I think folks want to buckle up for that, because I think Jarmo's the kind of guy that if they don't get a deal done before the deadline, Jarmo will say like, okay, we'll work on it at the end of the season, which gets a lot scarier. But if it means going to the playoffs and getting all that stuff done, so be it. You worry about it later, because Jarmo's done that before in Columbus. He had Artemi Panarin and Sergei Bobrovsky as future UFAs, and he's like, we got a shot at the playoffs. We got a shot. We could go deep with guys like this. We're going for it. And like, that took massive courage on his part to do it, especially in Columbus. And you know what? Gave him kudos then for doing it, for being bold. And hey, the guys didn't stay. Okay, fine. But I think in this case, I don't think you can. You could move Tuch and get a big deal, and get a big package for it, like whatever. But I think it works super negative against you if you do that ahead of the deadline and it costs you a playoff spot or something like that. Because whatever you get in a return for Tuch, it's going to be futures, right? Like, you're not getting another veteran player probably.
So you kind of use it as a rental.
Yeah. So you view it as like kind of like your trade deadline rental, and then you get to the off season and then figure out what you're going to do from there. But a lot of folks are getting preemptively worried about how they're going to manage this, that, and the other thing. I'd say park that. Enjoy the ride right now.